They seemed like a normal couple. A quiet man in his 40s, running a business from home. A woman in her early 30s, devoted to her family, busy around the house, constantly working. Nothing extraordinary, nothing suspicious. Except maybe the way she flinched when a man raised his voice nearby. Or how she sometimes wore sunglasses even on cloudy days. On September 13, 2011, in a residential building tucked away in a working-class neighborhood, a man named Ilya brutally assaulted and murdered his wife Olga Binunskaya, right in front of their 8-year-old daughter. The case shocked even seasoned investigators, not because it was the first domestic murder they'd seen, but because of the grotesque cruelty involved, and because it might have been prevented. Olga married young, straight out of university. She met Ilya when she was 22. He was 30, confident, stable. He ran a modest company that sold tractor parts, nothing glamorous but reliable income. At first, he seemed perfect, supportive, protective, always making sure she and their baby girl, Zhenya, had everything they needed. But as the business grew, something began to shift. They couldn't afford a separate office, so they turned their small apartment into a workplace. Every day, dozens of mostly male customers passed through their home. And with that came tension, suspicion, and eventually violence. Ilya became convinced that his wife was cheating on him. Not once, not twice, but daily. He never had proof, just gut feelings, sidelong glances, the way a man lingered at the door too long. It was enough. According to neighbors, fights became regular. Sometimes the yelling lasted for hours. Sometimes there were crashes, thuds, long silences. And sometimes Olga would show up outside with bruises, half covered by makeup or hidden under dark glasses. But she never left. Why do so many women stay? Fear, financial pressure, children. Hope that things will get better. Olga wasn't an exception. Like so many others, she likely believed that if she just worked harder, loved stronger, proved her loyalty, he'd calm down. Instead, he got worse. He began controlling her appearance, no makeup, no perfume. He went through her phone, read her messages, restricted her calls. Even compliments from male customers set him off. He once raged for hours because a client had said she had a kind smile. To outsiders, it might have seemed like a man struggling with jealousy, but inside those walls it was something else. Domination, paranoia, erosion of another person's autonomy, layer by layer. Her sister would later say, if she had gone to the police, maybe this wouldn't have happened. The day it all collapsed began like any other. Olga was exhausted, juggling housework, phone calls, receipts, keeping the business afloat. Zhenya had school in the morning. They were all home that evening when Ilya walked in. Drunk, as he often was by nightfall. Something set him off. Maybe a look she gave him. Maybe the way the couch cushions weren't quite aligned. Whatever it was, he became convinced that another man had been in their home. That his wife had cheated on him, again. The rage was immediate, violent. He beat her, threw her to the floor. Zhenya screamed. She begged him to stop, but her father was far gone. He grabbed a sex toy, something they had once used together in more tender moments, and turned it into a weapon. The child's cries, "Daddy, please, you're hurting her," meant nothing. In fact, he turned to her and said, "This is a lesson. This is what happens to unfaithful women. And you'll learn too." Then he went back to Olga. By the time he was done, she was bleeding heavily. She had suffered severe internal injuries, and without immediate medical attention, her body began to shut down. Ilya didn't call an ambulance. He didn't ask for help. Instead, he went online and quietly began deleting his social media accounts. Zhenya ran to call her aunt. It was too late. Paramedics later said that had she received care in time, Olga might have survived. The official cause of death: traumatic rupture of the rectum and internal bleeding. The weapon: a blunt object, a sex toy, used during a prolonged and violent assault. Zhenya became the key witness. At just 8 years old, she was able to explain what had happened, identify the weapon, and describe the hours leading up to her mother's death. Investigators described the scene as one of the most disturbing they had encountered, and not just because of the brutality, but because of the cold, calculated control. The sense that Ilya had wanted to send a message, to punish her, as if her death were not a crime, but a verdict. During questioning, Ilya claimed that what happened was consensual, that it was an accident, that they were playing. But medical evidence and Zhenya's account said otherwise. There were signs of struggle, deep bruises, defensive wounds. The autopsy left no room for doubt. He was charged not with murder, but with causing grievous bodily harm resulting in death. Legal experts argued that with different wording, like sexual assault resulting in death, he could have faced up to 20 years. Instead, the judge handed him 8 years. 8. That's what Olga's life was worth, legally speaking. That's how much the system thought her daughter's trauma, her agony, her death should cost. Zhenya was taken in by relatives. She worked with psychologists for months, maybe years. The scars she carries now are not visible on the outside. Ilya Vazhinin served his sentence in a strict regime colony. He never admitted guilt, never apologized, and perhaps that's what haunts people the most. Not just what he did, but how little remorse he ever showed. This wasn't a case of sudden rage, it was a slow erosion. A storm that everyone saw coming, but no one stopped.